I left mine. Thank you. Thank you. I left mine at home.
You don't need, Jody, you don't need.
Come on, this is very, this is not.
It really is not. 2, 3, 4, 5.
Don't believe everything is by the practice today, because we don't have like any question. So what is it? So in person.
Here's Carol. Carol's here.
Everybody wants to answer that question.
So is this lower the better?
Some people don't love that question, and I really struggle with it, but once I came up with an answer, I was like,
Right, that's what I thought too, right?
How do you turn it off?
I don't know. I can read your answer. You can read mine. We can laugh over it.
all right, yeah, right. If you get it, then then you can read mine.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 4 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. We're going to start.
She would come.
Good afternoon to both the candidates and to the GVR members in attendance. My name is Tony Zabicki, and I'm going to be the moderator for this afternoon's session. In the agenda, I think it refers to me as Master of Ceremonies. I am neither a master and neither is this a ceremony. This is an open forum. As Kathy mentioned, I have a tendency to speak softly, and sometimes I speak too quickly. If either of those two things occur, either with myself or members of the panel, please speak up and let us know. I will try not to do that. First of all, if you have cell phones, please silence them now. Even though you may be thrilled that your William Tell 1812 overture is your signal for your phone, the rest of us probably are not. I can say that from personal experience. This year, three candidates will be selected to serve on the board, replacing 4. A year ago, there was an amendment made to the bylaws that reduced the size of the board from 12 to 9. So that's an incremental change that will take place over a few years. So 4 members are going off. 3 new members will be coming on the board. Keep in mind the GVR, the board of directors, and committee members are volunteers. Volunteers are always needed. Your expertise and experience is needed. There's some information, I believe, on some of the tables out in the lobby. There may be something on your tables. If you have an interest in being on a committee, please do indicate that. If you have more questions about that, that's something you certainly can bring up with members of the board also. It is a difficult decision and a true challenge and task to volunteer to run for the board. I have done that. There's blood, sweat, and tears, not necessarily in equal parts. They give up their time. They do not get paid. They're not necessarily the most popular people on the block or within GVR, but they do that for the good of our community. So they deserve a significant amount of respect and admiration for stepping forward to do this. And I thank you all. There's significant more information on the GVR website at gvrec.org. A lot of the election information out there. There is interviews with each of the candidates. There's biographical information out there for them. Voting for the board started yesterday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It will run through March 18th and will cease at 4 p.m. on that day. The new directors will be announced at 4:30 on that day, and an e-blast will go out as well as a press release. There will be another forum next Tuesday, the 25th, I believe. That will be at 5 o'clock. That will also be here. If you know of individuals who could not make it this afternoon that might be interested, or if you think it might be of interest, we encourage you to tell other people to attend. There is a regular board meeting on the 26th. It's next week also. I believe most of the candidates have committed to being there, so they will be able to speak to you and take questions after that meeting. I think they're all going to try to stick around and answer some questions and speak with you both after today's session and after next week's session. At least that's my understanding. If you need voting assistance at one of the centers, contact Nancy Moyo. Her information should be on the agenda. So, with that said, I'm going to get into a little of the details of how we're going to proceed this afternoon. This is not a debate. Audience don't expect it. Candidates don't entertain entering into it. This is an opportunity for the candidates to tell you who they are, why they think they should be a board member representing you to the GVR Corporation. I ask the candidates to be respectful, to answer questions that are asked to them, to not refer to other candidates, and please, we have time limits on things. They have a clock. I don't know if you can see it. Please respect the time. Do not make me stop you. It's not pretty. So what we will do first, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through quickly. I'm going to speak the candidate's name. I'm going to ask them to raise their hand. We'll go through that. The candidates have had the opportunity to view 12 questions. So they have questions that they have seen and they have formulated a response to them. They will only answer 2 questions. They do not know which 2 questions they will be asked. After that, there is what has been referred to as a surprise question. These are questions they have not seen. So each candidate will have an opportunity to answer 1 question along those lines. Following that, we will take questions from the audience. It's a small group, so I'm assuming that we will be able to take most of the questions. If not, I urge you to catch the candidates either after the session, today, next week, or after the board to individually address any questions you may have of them. Following that, in closing, each candidate will have an opportunity to give a closing statement. Are we ready? Seeing no objections, we will proceed. First candidate, Beth Dingman. Second candidate, April Hassan Hillard. Third candidate, Dale Howard. Fourth candidate, Steve Reynolds. Fifth candidate, Lanny Smith. Sixth candidate, Jody Walker. Thank you again. Your work, your time is appreciated. I hope you don't have too many second regrets as we proceed down the road. So I get to ask the question. The candidates will have 3 minutes to answer this first question, correct? We need to do that first. My fault. Beth, please give your introduction.
Yes, hi, my name's Beth Dingman. I'm actually running for re-election. I've spent the last 3 years on the board, which has been very interesting and informative, and to some great degree, very rewarding. What can I say? I brought up in a suburb of Boston. I went to the University of Chicago for undergrad. I was in the Peace Corps after I graduated from college, and then spent a year traveling back around the world, which was a fabulous experience. Went to graduate school again at the University of Chicago. Instead of pursuing a career in social work, which was what my graduate degree was in, I ended up pursuing a career in publishing. I had my own book publishing company with 4 or 5 other women, and we were publishing feminist books. We started in 1975, so it was somewhat rare to see books about feminists and lesbians. So that's what I did most of my career, which was quite fun and interesting. And my partner and I came out to Green Valley maybe like 20 years ago, and we have been coming out ever since. We own a house here, and we spend 6 months, 7 months a year here. And I think it's a fabulous place, and I'm so glad we found it. And I love being here. And thank you for the opportunity to serve on the board. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I hope, I would love to do it again, but I also think we have some wonderful candidates. So let you hear from them. Thanks.
Thank you, Beth. April.
Good day, everyone. My name is April Hassan Hillard. I'm very proud to be here today. I grew up in Northern California, specifically a small farm town called Dixon, right outside of Sacramento. I had a dual major at Cal State University, Sacramento in Recreation and Park Administration and Public Administration. I dedicated my career to healthcare administration, where I manage large medical groups and ambulatory surgery centers. I retired in 2023. I'm now a year-round resident of Green Valley, and I moved to Green Valley specifically because of GVR. Once I came out to visit GVR, I got a brochure and I put it up on my refrigerator, and it was just my vision to get here, and I have just loved every minute of it. And I'm lucky enough to have a brother that lives here, and that's a bonus for me. I currently serve the GVR board as on 2 committees, planning and evaluation, as well as board affairs. I'm formerly was on the nomination and election committee. I withdrew from that once I decided to run for the board. I also serve the Desert Hills 5 HOA as board secretary, as well as chairperson of the Architectural Committee, chair of the Social Welcome and Holiday Committee, and I'm also the representative to the Green Valley Council for my HOA. I'm also quite privileged to be the president of the Green Valley Community Chorus, who is celebrating its 50th anniversary this season. So I hope you'll all come out to see us there. Yay. I also want to recognize Madam Chair Candy English and her nomination and election committee for doing such a great job at preparing us for not only this forum, but the interview with the newspaper and the online interview. So there's a lot of information out there in addition to this forum where you can learn about the candidates. But I thought it was a brilliant concept to give us 12 questions and have us only answer 2, because I learned a lot in answering all of those questions, that it made me a better candidate. So thanks to Nancy and Candy and her committee. I am very proud to have the opportunity to run for a seat on this board of directors, and I thank you so much for that opportunity.
Thank you, April. Dale, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Dale Howard. I grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and lived there through my freshman year in college, and had planned to finish out my 4-year degree and become an aeronautical engineer. And guess what? Uncle Sam came along and said, oh, no more college deferrals, no more. And then I got a low number. So I got my draft notice and looked at my options and said, I don't want to be in the Army, and I don't want to be in Naval Reserve, because I might as well be on active duty anyways. So I enlisted in the Air Force. I spent 7 years in the Air Force, and then had an opportunity to move over to the Missouri Air National Guard. And I spent the next 14 years on active duty there. And I'm proud to say that we successfully protected the state of Missouri from any invasions or foreign intrusions while I was serving. So I'm quite proud of that. After I retired, and I went to work for the Fox Theater in St. Louis and the Metrotix ticketing agency. So I had the opportunity to be on stage, or to be at the opening night of Phantom of the Opera, Sunset Boulevard, some of the great shows, and be involved in that. After I retired, I also, during that time, I've served as a treasurer of a Lutheran church in Florissant, Missouri, and also their day school board. I've been a board member and president of a 24-unit condo association in Alton, Illinois, where I live now. And I also belong to the Atonement Men's Club back in Florissant, where we do fundraising by barbecues and Christmas tree sales. And we raise approximately $25,000 a year, which we donate to a number of very worthy causes. During the course of my time in the service, I got my Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration with a major in accounting. So I spent most of my Air Force career in finance. And then from there, I proceeded to start working in IT, got bit by the computer bug, and did computer support the rest of my career. My wife and I moved to, or came out to Green Valley about 16 years ago. We rented my cousin's house. She got sick and died, so we bought it, and we've been here ever since. And I live for Green Valley Rec because my wife gets to swim, exercise, line dance, you name it. Occasionally she does come home for lunch and to change clothes. So I'm very excited. I'm currently on the fiscal affairs and the board of the investment committees, and I thank you for the opportunity to run.
Thank you, Dale.
I hope I'm faster.
I heard that line about you protecting Missouri, and every time it makes me smile. Steve Reynolds, tell us about yourself.
Hello, my name is Steve Reynolds. Since 2020, my wife Janet and I have lived in Green Valley and Colorado with Bella, our 12-year-old Shih Tzu. My work experience includes a 33-year career in corporate accounting, tax, and business, which included management positions in tax compliance. We chose to live in Green Valley because of Green Valley Recreation. It's been a great place for us to retire and recreate over the last 5 years. I've enjoyed volunteering in leadership positions in multiple GVR clubs, as well as HOAs in Colorado and Green Valley. I've been a member of GVR's Fiscal Financial Affairs Committee the last 4 years, where I've been fortunate to have developed good working relationships with Scott Summers, David Webster, and the following Financial Affairs Committee chairs: Donna Kuhn, Carol Carruthers, Jim Carden, and Nellie Johnson. Why am I running as a candidate for GVR's board of directors? First of all, it's my way of personally giving back to GVR and our community. Second, with my knowledge of GVR's finances, I will be an independent voice who can make a difference on the board to benefit the majority of GVR's membership. Third, I have the experience and know-how to work on GVR's new 5-year strategic plan starting next year. This will be GVR's roadmap to lead the membership and organization into the 2030s, which I want to be part of. I'll strive to work on creating new revenue streams, specifically researching a new philanthropic gifting program where members contribute to the GVR Foundation from their estates, trusts, IRAs, RMDs, and other. These tax-deductible donations will be directed to a specific GVR capital, project, or facility. I will also push for an operations audit to help make our organization run more efficient, improving productivity, saving costs for our members. I will strive to maintain our current dues. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Lanny Smith.
Thank you, Tony. My name is Lanny Smith, and I'm from beautiful British Columbia. My wife Jane and I have been snowbirding in GVR since 2017. And like many of you in the crowd here, I'm sure you chose Green Valley because of what it has to offer from a lifestyle perspective. And that's why we chose GVR. GVR's mission statement is all about enhancing the quality of our members' lives. And that to me is my number one goal, should I be fortunate enough to join the board, is to continue to uphold that mission statement and to live that mission statement on a day-to-day basis on your behalf. My experience is quite varied, primarily in the financial services and pension industry over 32 years. In the last 12 years, I was a senior executive with BC Pension Corporation, which is one of Canada's third or fourth largest public sector pension plan, with over 600,000 members and with a fund of well over $150 billion. My role was as the vice president of member and employer experience, 600,000 members, 1,000 employers. I used to call myself I had the biggest payroll in British Columbia because we paid retired members over $3 billion per month, but we also brought in $3 billion per month. So I have a very deep financial understanding of financial statements. I have been a part of the GVR Fiscal Affairs Committee, like Steve. We've been colleagues on that committee for the last 4 years. I've worked with Donna, Carol, Jim, and Nellie. And that has been a very rewarding experience for me, as has my volunteer position on the BAC as well as planning and evaluation. And that's what's driving me to be a member, to be a board member, is because of what I learned. And I feel it's time for me to step up to come to the board to represent you, the members at the board level. So I look forward to your questions later today. And I really do encourage you to ask your friends and neighbors to come and join us next week for the next Candidates Forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Lanny. Jody, say hello.
Hello, Jody Walker here. Born and raised in Davenport, Iowa. I am a Hawkeye fan, a Big Ten fan. Hometown heroes are Caitlin Clark and Cooper DeJean. I'm grew up a blue collar family. Parents graduate or retired from Oscar Mayer, Ralston Purina. We have family members in the union, John Deere. So I bring that background to this position. I started as a student aide out of high school, working for the government, Department of the Army, worked my way up to a GS-13 position without a degree. I do have some college education, but I was working amongst bachelor's and master's. But I worked my way up to a team leader position, managing 4 contract specialists, doing cradle to grave contracts from requirement all the way to closeout. Contract administration, any given year, ranged in the value of $20 million to $75 million annually. One of the last requirements I worked on before I retired in 2017 was a services contract in Afghanistan for $50 million a year. It was a 5-year contract, $250 million. We did contract closeout. I loved the job that I did. It allowed me to, as a civilian employee, to deploy to Iraq at Camp Baghdad for 4.5 months. I really, truly liked the job that I worked. The incoming youth and their lack of work ethic caused me to retire at 55. I just had a hard time with the ones just didn't want to work. So at 55 in 2017, I retired. We've been coming down as snowbirds ever since. I have 1 son and 2 grandpuppies, no grandchildren yet, not even married. And my hobby is I love to travel. If it wasn't for my husband, I'd be in Europe right now for 3 or 4 months, but he's here, so I'm here. And I want to be able to bring my background, my work ethic to GVR. We love GVR and we came down here because of GVR. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you can see that based upon these candidate introductions, GVR is fortunate to have people of this quality with this level of expertise and experience step forward and volunteer to run for the board. I am confident that whoever is elected will serve this community well. We will now move along to the candidate questions that I previously jumped to in much too quickly. The candidates have seen these questions. There are 12 questions. Each candidate will answer 2. They do not know which 2 questions will be asked of them. They also do not know the order in which these questions will be asked. They will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. So for the first question, I want to go to Dale Howard. Dale, tell us how you will ensure that members' voices are heard.
We have a number of policies and procedures in place. We have each board member has an individual email address. We have a hotline email address for the board. We have a hotline address for the staff. We have a number of publications that go out, an e-blast that goes out monthly, weekly. We have a GVR Now publication that gets printed monthly. You can come to any of the committee meetings or any of the board meetings. At the end of the meetings, there's an open mic session. You get 2 minutes to say whatever you'd like to say. The board does not take questions, but they will listen to your needs and wants. And then as those things are taken, as we receive them, they're channeled to the appropriate, either the staff or the board or committee for appropriate evaluation, reaction, and action as needed. We look forward to and we love to hear member input. Too many times it's hard to find out, at least I think it's too hard to find out what the members want. And we're here to serve you. We're not here to serve ourselves. The 12 of us could do what we wanted, but that's not necessarily what you want. And we want to make sure that the 12 of us give you, or the 11 or the 10 or the 9 as the count changes. We want to make sure that you get heard and that your needs and concerns are listened to and answered.
Thank you. Beth, I'm going to ask you the next question. What does policy governance mean to you?
Oh. So policy governance, and there's a long detailed description of it, which I will not go into because it's somewhat uninteresting. I mean, it's not uninteresting, but it can be a little tedious. But anyway, basically it means that the board's authority is a group authority, so that we act as one group. So whenever there's a vote, you know, whatever side of that vote I was on, if something is approved by the majority, then that is the board decision, and we all agree with that decision, and you know, and so that's the end of the discussion once we have the vote. So we act as one rather than as individual people. We have hired a manager, so the board is not 12 or 11 managers. The CEO is actually the manager of the corporation, and he does all of the those issues. And we are basically a policy decision. We think about what would be good next. Shall we build a new building for glass art? Shall we enlarge the center for the woodworking? Those are the kinds of things that we as a board decide, but then the CEO as the manager does the detail work, gets it all done. So that, to me, policy government is we make policy and we let this board, I mean, the CEO and the staff actually do the work. And so basically it's strategic leadership, ideas for the future, and then sort of hands off while it gets implemented by the staff.
Thank you, Beth. Lanny, this next question is for you. What part of GVR's mission is most meaningful to you?
Earlier. Thank you, Jody. Teamwork. I think as I mentioned earlier, what attracted my wife, Jane, and I to GVR was its mission statement, and specifically the last 5 or 6 words, enhancing the quality of our members' lives. And that is the part that is most meaningful to me. And everything that I see that GVR has to offer, programs, the facilities, the services, the people that are here, is all about enhancing our lives. And it dovetails quite well with our mission statement, which is a vibrant community of choice. And that is critically important, being a vibrant committee of choice. We all chose to be here, and we chose for many different reasons, but I think at the end of the day, we chose it because of the programs, the services, the facilities that are available to all of us.
Thank you. Steve Reynolds, are you capable of negotiating a controversial policy? And if it didn't go your way, how would you manage when talking to members regarding it?
Thank you, Dale.
You're welcome.
This is a very interesting question. This has happened a lot in our board history at GVR. It's created a lot of conflict, which I think could be handled better. And I feel it's natural for directors to have different opinions, approaches, and attitudes, which should generate discussion and help us explain the pros and cons of our policy positions. I think it's really important that we understand these differences so we can find common ground and come up with a better policy for our members. ultimately, we have to accept the majority viewpoint and come together as a board. So one example that I know Board of Affairs is going to address is GVR's guest policy. All right. This guest policy is outdated. All right. It's suffering from a lot of abuse. And what I'm most interested in hearing is, what are the facts? What are the numbers? How many of these guest cards are being abused compared to the total, right? And then I want to look at what the revenue loss will be if we attempt to go with a different option. So that's important for me to work on. If I'm elected as a director next year, I think it has a lot of opportunity for improvement, and I know it will be challenging, but I think the end result could be a benefit for the entire membership. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody, this question is for you. As a director, how would you handle competing needs or interests of GVR members and clubs?
Well, every situation's different. So I think right now, personally, the wood and lapidary should be top priority because they've waited 10 years. I think 10 years is a little bit too long to wait. But after those are done, it depends on the specific scenario. The scenario I see today might be totally different as how I evaluate and analyze it in 6 months. We have a lot of members we need to take into consideration. I don't think any given specific number of members or how much money, it's just a mix of many different things. And to be narrowed into a specific guidance, I think is not going to do the membership any good. I think you just have to look at the particular scenario that's been tossed in front of you at that given moment. And again, like I said, how I evaluate it today to a different set of circumstances in 6 months, it might be a different answer.
Thank you. April, you're going to get the last question of the first round. If GVR were to be on the cover of your favorite magazine in 5 years, what would the story be about?
I really struggled with this question, and in the end, in the beginning, I was hoping I wouldn't get this question, and in the end, I'm really happy that I did. So I visualize myself going to my mailbox and pulling out one of the top retirement new journals in the nation called the Oasis Journal. On the cover is an aerial photograph of the West Center with its lazy river, its new performing arts center, new member services center, and all of the visions that we've had in the 10-year plan. All of these things have come to fruition. GVR is featured on the cover of this award-winning magazine because of the wonderful benefits that GVR offers for both opportunities for socialization, for health, fitness, all of the wonderful things that we're here for. So my vision is to keep moving forward with all of these wonderful concepts that are in our 10-year plan, and I see it.
I always worry about asking that question because who knows what somebody's favorite magazine might be. That could take us down an entertaining path, to say the least.
Good, congratulations.
Okay. Beth, I'm going to give you this question.
Yes.
What does working as a team member of the GVR board look like to you?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Thank you.
It means listening to others' reasoning for their opinions and considering other points of view. I have more than once, as a board member, changed my mind during discussions if I think that there are valid points being offered by other members of the board. I have also not changed my mind in situations when I feel strongly about the situation. But I think it really means being respectful to all the members of the board. And also, it's something we've been doing more lately, which is really great, is we've been sort of engaging in sort of a friendly banter and a sense of congeniality, which hasn't always been true on the board, but I think it's happening more and more. And I think we've gotten much better with regard to respecting each other. And a little duck is a representative of that. One of Candy, is a new member of the board, has been very generous and fun-loving and giving other members little packets of candy and things like that, which I really do appreciate as a way of saying we're together as a group. And so I brought my little ducky with me just to to say that I'm feeling much better about the cohesion of the group, of the board, and certainly, as I said, with the members, all of these people as candidates, I think will be part of a good feeling and a general feeling that we really want to do the best for the community.
Thank you. Dale, this question is going to be for you. As a director of the board, how will you react to and potentially resolve challenges that arise due to different opinions, approaches, and attitudes?
As a board director, we need to remember that we represent 23,000 of you. That's a lot of people. 13,800 plus houses. What I like, what I want, doesn't matter. I'm here to represent 23,000 of you. Now, I'm not going to make you all happy. Guess what? If there's just two of us, my wife and I, we can't decide on everything and agree. You put 23,000 together, there's going to be a whole lot of people that don't like what you do. But you have to do what we do as board members is promote the good of GVR. So it's every discussion needs to be reasonable, pro and con. We need to listen to everybody's opinion, the reasons why we should go one direction or another. When we get done, we vote for a consensus, the majority rules, and the board as a whole has to support that decision. So even if I'm adamantly opposed to whatever it is the board has approved, I can go home in my office and have a discussion with myself. But as a board member, I support whatever the board has decided. We want to make sure that you get the best bang for your buck. You get the most quality of life out of GVR.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Steve Reynolds. Please describe how funds should be allocated for club projects. For example, should it be club size and longevity, estimated cost of the project, amount of financial contribution promised by the club, level of GVR community membership with support for the project, or other?
All right, this is a big question.
It's a big question.
GVR, including its board membership and CEO, have a lot to consider when deciding which projects to move forward with. Scott Summers and the prior boards have done an excellent job in following our 5-year strategic plan in deciding on and completing GVR's initiatives. I believe all these criteria should continue to be used to evaluate and budget our projects, which are paid for from the initiative's reserve fund. I think GVR has been fair to its members and added a lot of value for their enjoyment. We were fortunate to have had the capital revenue and reserves from home sales the last 6 years to complete the East Center pool, Glass Art Studio, Desert Hills Fitness Center, 24-court pickleball center, and the Social Gathering Center at the Del Sol Clubhouse. This year, GVR will add space for its ceramic studio, metal arts workshop, lapidary studio, and member service center. A new woodworking shop is slated for 2027. Facility improvements, including pool and spa replacements, have priority and are paid for from a separate pools and spas reserve fund. There will be a new 5-year strategic plan developed next year where the board will ultimately decide which projects will be planned for in the next 5 years. So with all this expansion, without taking out any debt and keeping our dues at the current levels, I think the current plan has been very successful. And I look forward to working on it next year if I'm elected as a director.
Thanks, Steve. April. Still here? Okay. What is your experience in working with budgets and finance, and how do you see that experience benefiting you as a director?
Let's see. What number? Okay, thank you. We were able to prepare notes, and just want to make sure I follow along with that. So I spent 30 years of my career as a healthcare administrator for large medical groups and ambulatory surgery centers. As I said earlier, my experience with finance and budgets has given me a deep appreciation for transparency and accountability. I understand deep financial concepts. I oversaw large organizations, and I oversaw the entire budget, finances, investments, payroll. So I understand how all of the pieces fit together. I feel that being able to make data-driven decisions is very important. I don't think that using data to make the decision solely, if we see a trend and the data points to a certain decision, I think there are other factors that go into that, but I think making good data-driven decisions is very important. I feel that this experience will allow me to contribute my sound financial management support to the mission and help guide it to long-term success. One of my most significant career accomplishments was building basically the entire process of a development of a $12 million medical office building, an ambulatory surgery center. And it ended up to be an award-winning, amazing project and really a rewarding project for me. And it's in McMinnville, Oregon. It's lovely. So I've overseen the whole process, and I feel that I can really add value with all of these skills to GVR. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody, I'm going to ask you this question. Do you feel you can be respectful of the opinions of others, even if they differ with you over something you feel very strongly about? How would you handle a defeat by the board of something you felt strongly about?
First off, I would need patience. Once you get into the discussion back and forth, as long as everybody's heard and given a chance to give you or to lay out their opinion or what their choice is or their side of the story, it's really comes down to you're one of going to be 11 votes. You just have to realize you might not win everything. You have to pick the top things you really want to do and go for that, and just realize you might have to give up a little bit, the low hanging fruit. It happens. It's business. It's nothing personal. And to handle defeat, I would be frustrated. I would be unhappy. But, again, it's all about what's right for the community. It's not about what Jody wants every single time. I'm willing to fight for the things that I think is right, but as well as I'm willing to understand and listen to the other board members' opinions and their side of the story. And hopefully as a board, which this board is doing a lot better, not this board, but the actual GVR board has been able to come together and as adults discuss things, and they're not fighting. And that's really all we can do at that.
Thank you. Lanny, you get the last question out of the 12. If you've been keeping notes, you should have been able to figure out which one is coming. Should I ask it anyway? I will, just for the audience.
Okay.
Oh,
Number 10.
it's number 4.
Number 4.
What are your thoughts on how the board should handle membership feedback or support the staff in handling member feedback?
I view any kind of feedback as a gift. And the moment we get that feedback from members, positive, negative, neutral, we need to first and foremost listen to it and try to understand what was generating that particular piece of feedback. What is it that the members are trying to communicate with us? Because I think, as all of my colleagues here have said, as well as other board members, current board members, is we're here because we're here on behalf of all of the membership. So I value feedback. And how we should handle it is with respect. And we need to support the staff, because they're the ones that are going to hear it most often, the feedback that they're going to get from members, and we need to support the staff in handling that member feedback. And they're going to be getting feedback either face-to-face, through emails, through letters, next door, neighborhood. There are many venues where feedback is given through the membership. So I think it's incumbent upon me, as well as my fellow colleagues, as well as staff, to listen and act upon that feedback. And sometimes, I think, as Dale said earlier, sometimes we're going to make some people happy and sometimes we're not. But at the end of the day, I would hope that whatever the feedback, members would say they accepted my feedback, they listened to my feedback, and they listened to it respectfully.
Thank you. That concludes the questions that the candidates had in front of them and they could prepare for. At the session next week, I will try, if my notes are correct, I will try to ask the same questions, but not of the same candidate, so they will have an opportunity to answer a different question. Since these sessions are being audio taped, the membership, including yourself, if you're here today and you're not here the one next week, you'll be able to go and look then. Also, if you know members who are not here or will not be there next week, encourage them also to look. An informed vote is better than just the vote. A vote's important, without a doubt, for whatever reason, but an informed vote is certainly more important. What we're going to do now is we're going to move along to some questions that the candidates have not seen. They will again have 2 minutes to answer the questions. Some of the questions may sound a little bit repetitive. It's hard to come up with brand new questions every time, but there'll be some themes here that you might pick up on as far as what the nomination and election committee was trying to elicit through the candidates' responses. But so we're going to go with this. And again, we're just going to go sort of random here. And I will ask this question of Dale Howard. Dale, what is one of the best things that GVR provides the community of Green Valley? And what is one area of GVR that needs to be improved to better address the needs of its members?
Well, the first thing I love about GVR is it's a small, or not small, but a quiet retirement community. We're not some grandiose, big deal. We're just a bunch of folks came to Green Valley to retire. We're enjoying doing what we want to do, getting to do what we want to do. GVR provides a wonderful broad spectrum of opportunities for our members. A week before last, I went to the open house at the Springs and went to the arts and the glass studio and the clay studio, and walking into those facilities and seeing the smiles on people's faces. They had sufficient facilities to do what they wanted to do, and they were just enjoying themselves. And there was nobody. Oh, there was one question about, can we put a window over here? And it's like, if that's the biggest problem we got, we're doing a pretty good job. And that's what we want to strive to achieve with all of GVR, is that we've still got the woodworking club. We've still got something. We've got a whole bunch of projects scheduled for this year. We just want to make the quality of Green Valley as good as we can. We're spending up to $2.3 million this year on maintenance and repairs of our facilities from our reserve funds that we've saved up, so that we do provide the best possible facilities that we can for all of our organizations.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds, what is or should be the relationship between the staff of GVR, the CEO, and the board?
Oh, okay.
And any of the can, feel free to ask me to repeat the question because
Okay.
I know you have not seen it.
Staff, the
The
CEO.
question is, what should be the relationship between the staff of GVR, the CEO, and the board?
Okay. This was a question that we had on the video from Regina. The same question.
We should be able to just knock it out
I
of
should
here.
knock it out in no time. All right, so the board is responsible for handling policy. All right. It sets the policy, it develops the policy, it changes, it adds the policy. The board has hired a CEO who is Scott Summers, okay? And his job is to lead the organization. And he reports to the board. All right. The what was the third group? The staff, yes. And Scott manages the staff. All right. So in essence, it's a tiered management style. And the staff and Scott, they do all the work with operations. All right. They're responsible for operating all the facilities, member services, all the administration, all the accounting, finance, billing. All right. Policy governance actually allows the board to kind of oversee the entire organization. So thank you.
Thank you. Lanny, what do you see as the role of a board director?
That's a good one. First and foremost, I think being a really good team member is critical to the success of the board. Being a strong advocate from a governance perspective, particularly a policy governance perspective, where as a board member, I believe my role is my primary role is focused on setting clear policies, on working with my colleagues to set clear policies that are going to guide the decision making of the organization. And I think as a board member, I need to be focused on the overall strategic plan. The day-to-day running of the business is something we have a management team that does that, and they are doing a pretty amazing job. My role as a board member is to help define what those overall goals are going to be with our strategic plan. Also, that's a hard one, you know. That's a real hard question. But I think it's also about being a member advocate. And, you know, we're here because on behalf of this is a volunteer position, and we're here because we are a member first, and we want to speak on behalf of the members. And we don't want an organization that is going left when the membership is asking us to go to the right. So we want to ensure that the member's voice is always being heard at that table. And I believe that's one of the most important roles that I have as a board member, is being that member advocate at the board.
Thank you. Jody, in your observation of board dynamics in meetings and work sessions, what is an area of strength and what is an area that needs improvement? You want me to repeat it?
No.
Okay.
Well, the strength that I see that the board, excuse me, that the board currently has is that they are cohesive. While they might disagree on positions, they're at least listening to one another. There's no arguments. So, and as far as, I just went blank. These are not softball questions. And the downside of that is it can be the same as the upside. The boards can have different sides. You have people have difference of opinions, and it's being able to come together and come to an agreement that's good on behalf of the membership. And being able to make the difficult call you're not going to please everybody. And sometimes you have to make the decision. And that's where it really gets difficult. You're going to have a bunch of people that might not be happy, and you might have a bunch of people that will be happy. But the board coming together and making a decision for the membership. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth, I haven't asked you the third question yet, have I? I will now. Okay. As the 2025 budget is already in place, how can you ensure GVR members that current budget projects will get completed?
Well, this is a good question because in the past, there have been boards who have adopted a project and then partway through it, another board has made a different decision. And so policy and with the help and guidance of our CEO, have tried to establish a process there. Once we start the process of having an enlargement of the woodworking shop or whatever the project, once we've started it, then the board is committed to continue it, even if the people on the board are changing. So we've put into place a process now where we begin a project and then we are committed to seeing it through, which I think is appropriate because you don't want to put energy and money and architectural plans into something and then turn around and say, well, we didn't really want to do that. So I think that's a very good process. And what was the rest of the question?
That was pretty much it. I can answer it. As the 2025 budget is already in place, how can you ensure GVR members that current budgeted projects will get completed?
Yes, and let me just say about the budget, we have a really good CFO, and he and Scott spend a lot of time working on the budget and making sure that we can come in in a realistic way and getting these projects finished. And I know it's been a job this past year because of the home sales down a bit. So I think we are very lucky to have such people at the top of our organization who are doing the hard work.
Thank you. Thank you. April, you get the last surprise question.
Yay.
You don't look surprised. How would you adequately prepare yourself for board meetings and work sessions?
Well, I've been going to board meetings and work sessions over the past year, and at home, I have a stack of paper this tall. The administration here does a great job of informing the committee members of what is on the agenda and giving them all of the necessary documentation that they need to study and prepare. And you can either, spend just, half hour going through that data, or you can really spend the time to understand it, delve in, and be ready to eloquently discuss it. And I think that, really spending time preparing for the meetings and really understanding the corporate procedure manual, the bylaws, the strategic plan, and all of the different articles of, not the articles of incorporation, but all the different things that go into what is discussed at the meetings, the budget. So I think it's really not just going to meetings and not just participating in meetings. It's really, really spending a lot of time to understand what all of the issues are and discussing them not only with the other board members, but with the members to really be able to represent them and give feedback at the meetings as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the questions that I have prepared. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move to the audience to take their questions. So I want to try to set up a few ground rules regarding this process. Number one, approach the mic, give your name, your GVR number if you know it, or if you don't, give your address. That's pretty much standard protocol for these type of meetings. Ask a question that any candidate can answer. Don't try to direct it towards one candidate because I'm going to try to give all of the candidates, if they wish, an opportunity to respond to it. Don't take this opportunity to complain about something about GVR. That's not what this process is. Even though you may have those things, those are better taken up at a board meeting or in direct conversation with a board of director. So with that said, does anybody have a question they would like to address to the candidates? I see a sort of a raised hand there. Please step up to the mic.
My name is Dick Melchior. I am a member of GVR Rec and also a member of the GVR Bocce Club. And this is actually a request, not a question. Is that acceptable?
These are candidates for the board. They are not in a position to grant a request.
I'm not hearing you.
I'm sorry. These are candidates for the board. They are not necessarily in a position where they can tell you grant a request. They may be able to give you an opinion about something. So if you phrase your question along those lines as opposed to asking for
Well,
a,
my request is that they visit the bocce courts sometime before next week and see if this represents what Green Valley Rec stands for.
I think that's a good enough question. They can choose to do that. I don't know if anybody wants to respond to that just with a general response. It would be nice, obviously, since the request was made. When I was on the board, one of the things I did, I visited every GVR facility there was. Everyone, no matter how small it was, I went there. Might not have known much about it, but I did go there. So thank you for your questions. I think we have a few responses. Dale first.
Well, I vaguely know what bocce is. I mean, I know you're rolling balls to hit other balls, and that's about all I know about the sport. But if there are issues with your courts, that should be directed to the staff, to facilities. We have a significant repair and replace budget for our facilities, and those are the folks that can handle that for you.
But you were the one that indicated the goodness of GVR facilities. And I'm asking you to come as a board member to see if it meets your standards.
Okay, that's fine. We would be glad to. Oh,
Thank you. Steve, I think you want to respond.
Dick, can I answer your question? Do you guys give lessons for bocce ball on a certain day at a certain time? Okay.
Be the day
I will try to come at 9 next week so I can learn about bocce.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please step up to the mic.
Short. Kristen Bean, 1949-20. Can you hear me?
Get a little bit closer. You almost got to hold it right to your mouth. Yeah, but you know, really you do, because this,
What? Okay,
thank you.
I'll hold it right here.
Thank you.
All righty, will do. There are two competing forces in GVR finances. One of them happens to be the fact that inflation is with us. For most of our lives, most of us have seen some of that, and we will continue to. So prices will go up. On the other side of things, the number of actual lots and developments that are out there is limited by the geographic dimensions of GVR. So somewhere along the line, you're not going to be getting the money from the developers. You're not going to be getting any more money from home sales. Do any of you have, other than black magic, some sort of idea how you are going to plan to keep those two things in line without raising dues? Because I hear a lot about We're not going to raise dues. So I'll take anybody.
Thank you. And if you have any black magic, please share that also.
Yeah, that's it. That's an
Oh, let's start. April, please.
There will always be income from home sales because GVR gets a certain amount for every home sale. Also, there's a new large development going in that will very likely expand GVR's boundaries and bring in more homes into GVR.
So you are telling me that GVR can increase the boundaries, the legal boundaries that it had set for it?
As far as I know and what I've heard in meetings, is a new development that will be going in over the next 10 years that will expand GVR boundaries.
I don't want to get into this too far because it's fairly complicated. GVR has expanded its boundaries in the past. There's a process. It's not automatic. It just doesn't happen because somebody wants to, but there is a process. The membership is involved in making that determination. Steve, please.
I'd like to clarify that development. It's a Fairfield development as it's planned today. We don't know when it's going to start, but it's pegged for about 330 houses. So it's not huge. Solterra is the other new development in Green Valley. And I believe they have another 100 lots to sell there. So it's not a significant amount of income, right? There is a bigger development south of Kanoa by the Colorado group. I believe that is estimated to be 1,500 houses. It will not be in GVR, okay? It will not be in GVR. They will have their own recreation.
Beth?
Yes, first of all, there's always a turnover. I mean, it seems to me that people come to GVR when they're 55, 60 years old and leave when they're about 80 or 85. And so those houses are always going to turn over to some degree. The other thing is, yes, inflation is happening and will continue to happen. And I think, and I've said this, that to me, incremental dues increases is not the worst thing in the world. We went up, what, $15 for two, if you have a household of two people, you're paying $250 some a year to access an incredible amount of resources. And so I think that we shouldn't be totally afraid of raising dues slowly and incrementally as inflation goes up. I also think, and I know that there are people in Green Valley who do not have a lot of money, and there are some resources to help that. I also know that we, as a population, are the wealthiest portion of the population in the United States.
Thank you, Beth.
Okay,
Lanny?
as an age group.
Lanny?
I think my colleagues have done a really good job of explaining the revenue side of the ledger, but I'd also like to point out the terrific job that management has done on the expense side. They have done a really, I'm on the Fiscal Affairs Committee. I've been on there for 3 years, and I can tell you with a lot of confidence that they keep a really strong eye on the expenses. If you take a line by line item and you look through it, there's no fat. There is absolutely no fat in the expenses.
I
think
agree
a
with
shout out, a real shout out to our management team in being able to control expenses, to your point, in an inflationary world.
Thank you.
And thank you all for running.
Thank you.
Dale?
Yeah, this year, the Fiscal Affairs Committee and the Board of Directors both, we took a very hard look at the way we budget our revenue, and we have significantly reduced our reliance on home sales as a part of our budget. If we get fortunate and we get a lot more home sales, we're going to be in a great position because we're going to have extra money to spend or use as needed. But right now, the way the budget is structured, and it was unanimously approved by the Fiscal Affairs Committee and the board, which almost never, ever happens, it took a realistic approach we might have to do minimal cost of living dues increases, but we don't want large. We realize a lot of our members can't afford large increases, but it's reasonable to expect that we might have to do minimal cost of living. We're trying to, as Scott and David and all the staff are doing, they're doing a wonderful job of managing the facilities and cutting expenses wherever they can. But we're concerned to make sure we keep that at a minimum.
Thanks, Dale. Further audience questions? He's going. Is there any other further audience questions? Carol? You get one.
First, I want to just thank you all for running.
Carol, give you,
I
many
have
of us know
Lois?
you, but
Carol Crothers, and I don't remember my number. I'm sorry. I live at 615 West Continental Road.
thank you.
I've been a member for 20 some years and on the board for quite a number of years. There was a lot of discussion on decision making and what's important in GVR and how do you make decisions. I'm going to make a two-part question. One part is, how do you feel about volunteers as a way to keep costs down, offer outstanding services? And a way to test that is visiting clubs and asking people, why did you join this club? What do you like about it? And I'll just bet you, because I've done a ton of that, the answer is the people that train the courses and help me here are fantastic. They've been doing this for 20 years. They understand molding clay, or they helped me learn how to play tennis. So I'm giving back and teaching somebody else to play tennis. Ask them. It's the volunteers that make us special, and particularly you, April, because my second question is, how in the devil are you going to pay for your vision? You know, how I got an old marketing career. How do you differentiate GVR from Sun City or, right across the river? They're growing like mad. They've got beautiful facilities, a brand new clubhouse. Last time I checked, they pay $5,000 a year in dues. So it's a trade-off, How do you make decisions? That's my question.
Thank you. I'm going to give the board, there was a lot wrapped up into what Carol was stating there. There were some statements, there were some questions, but Beth, do you want to respond? You don't have to, but you can.
The board just had this discussion yesterday about volunteers. And I know that it's true that we have that people do volunteer a lot, and particularly in the clubs, which is fantastic. And I agree with Carol that all the clubs have great volunteers who are willing to help you out with everything. But we've also talked about the fact that if we instituted a volunteer, say, watching over the pools or checking on people coming in to whether their guest cards or their cards were using, were correct, that there's a cost involved in terms of the staff and in terms of somebody having to run a volunteer program, organize it, get people out at particular times. And we sort of came to the conclusion, or at least part of the discussion was, it seems like there's a lot of expense involved in getting people to do free things.
Okay. April, you want to take a hit?
I was at that board meeting yesterday where they talked about volunteers, and it seems volunteers for GVR, and it sounds like that model has been tried, and that the additional administrative burden for overseeing the volunteers is not in place at this time. So I think it's a really great concept that needs to be explored further. It needs to be training for the volunteers, some accountability, some conflict resolution skills, and, making sure they're not too heavy-handed. So there's some politics involved in that. And I think it's definitely something that GVR should look into. It's something should be looked into. Thank you.
And before you, if you are going to leave, there is food and beverage available, so please go there and utilize that. Dale, do you want to respond?
Well, I'll take the other half of Carol's question. Over the last 5 years, we've spent $5.6 million upgrading facilities. We've done the Del Sol Clubhouse. We've remodeled Canoa Hills. We've done stuff where we got things in the works for the West Center. We've done lapidary. We've done a whole number of projects. 2027, when we tackle woodworking, to our knowledge at this point, of course, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. But right now, that's the last major club project that we still have for organizations that have expressed a significant need for additional facilities. So I think in the last 5 years, GVR has done a marvelous job of upgrading and improving facilities, offering new opportunities. Our program sales are up. Revenue is amazing how much it's increased in the last 2 years post-COVID. And we keep adding more and more of those types of things to improve GVR.
Thanks, Dale. Steve?
Carol, thank you for that question, and it's good to see you back. I'm glad you're feeling better. I was also at the meeting yesterday, and my takeaway was we're going to move forward with analyzing the volunteers and identify what responsibilities we want the volunteers to take part in. That was the big unknown at the meeting yesterday is what will they serve as volunteers?
Okay, let me just ask you to please consider there's two very distinct, different kind of volunteers. One are sort of authority volunteers, monitor the pools, monitor the fitness centers. That's one class. And there might be a good reason to have those and there might not. I don't know on that. The volunteers that I've heard for years that are the important ones to GVR are the club volunteers. They run the clubs, they train people, they run classes, they encourage people on whether it's playing cards or learning how to play pickleball. Those are in my mind, the important volunteers that bring people. Ask yourself, why did you come? It was the clubs and all the facilities they bring. You can always find a nicer clubhouse, right? That's not our real value.
Carol, I'm going to ask you to continue the discussion individually with the directors afterwards. Thanks. Lanny?
Part B. I was going to answer part B.
Okay.
The cost of GVR. I think we all want to keep our dues as low as we can without raising them more than inflation. But in order to do that, we're going to have to come up with additional revenue streams. All right. I have an idea to create a philanthropic gifting program where members would be able to contribute from their estates, trusts, RMDs, and other. And then these contributions would be tax deductible and go into an endowment through the GVR Foundation. We would build this up and then we could use that to pay for our capital projects in the future, as well as facility improvements. Now, there's probably legal ramifications that we'd have to discuss, but I would be very interested in pursuing that if I'm elected as a director.
Thanks, Steve. Lanny?
Thank you, Carol, for your questions. I had the pleasure of working with Carol on the Fiscal Affairs Committee, and I always appreciate your how down to earth you are and how member focused you are, and I've always appreciated that. With regard to comparing us to Quail Creek, I almost feel sad for the people of Quail Creek because GVR is such an amazing place. I think it is the most unique community in the United States. I'm Canadian. I love coming down here. When we head back home, within 3 weeks, my wife and I are already starting to think, when are we going back to summer camp? I have never heard and I have a lot of friends that live in Quail Creek. Great people. but I've never heard them talk about Quail Creek as summer camp. And that also speaks to the type of people that are in GVR. I just think it's a pretty cool place. So that's my goal, is to keep it a pretty cool place.
Jody, you want to take a crack at this too?
I will.
Sure.
As far as comparison to Quail Creek, I think our dues and the cost speaks for itself. If you compare and do the ways, the trade-offs for the cost and the amenities that we offer, I think it's GVR just stands alone. As far as the volunteers, I think that's something that could be looked into on a limited basis. What that is, it's unsure, but I'm all ears for any kind of option.
Thank you. And I see that Director Hilliard has a question, and we'll make this probably the last one there.
All
Keep
right,
it
very
brief,
good.
Bart.
It's a quick question. It's Bart Hillier, 250683. I noticed that one of the candidates, I'm not going to name him or her,
Thank you.
in response to a question about the new 1989 bakehouse. And let me just briefly say that give kudos to Scott Summers, who managed to round up a vendor who agreed to open 1989 bakehouse in Dulcel Clubhouse. And that was a struggle. Good work, Scott. Don't let it go to your head. And it's a great deal for them, no rent, no utilities. But one candidate says, well, if 1989 Bakehouse can't make a go of it there, then GVR ought to operate the cafe itself. And I would be very curious to hear as many candidates as want to answer the question, what do you think about GVR going into the commercial food service business? Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody want to go for it, but keep it quick, please.
Bart, thanks for that question. My answer is no, we don't want to go into the food service business.
Anybody else?
Um,
April? Oh, I'm sorry. April 1st.
I agree. I have worked in food service. I know what goes on behind the scenes and all the regulations and all the training, and it's very, very complicated. And GVR does not want to be involved behind the scenes managing a restaurant.
Steve.
Well, I was over at the clubhouse, and I'm a very frugal GVR member, and a cup of coffee was $7. I thought that was a little high, and I think that the supply and demand of how the members frequent the new restaurant will possibly cause the prices to adjust. And I'm also interested in finding out what's going to happen in the 6 months that the membership is much lower. I figure we'll lose 50%, and how the clubhouse will react to that. Now in the original plan that Nellie and the fiscal affairs and the committee put together, I think it was designed for a lesser menu. All right. It wasn't as full a menu that the Bakehouse 1985 is supplying. So it's yet to be determined, I think.
Okay. Dale?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, supply and demand is going to dictate whether or not they adapt.
Usually does.
I mean, if they don't adapt and their business falls off, they won't survive. But Scott scoured everywhere because the staff, in particular Scott, had no desire to get into the food service business. The staffing requirements, the drain on his resources taken away from the rest of GR was going to be very significant. So I'm more than kudos for as long as he struggled to find a vendor. But if the vendor can't make a go of it, That's the vendors. I mean, they're rent-free, they're utility-free. If you can't price your products and provide the service that our customers are looking for,
Okay, Beth?
I was there this morning and the large coffee was $6 and the small was 5. I'm not sure where the 7 came from, but anyway, I looked at prices, I compared prices to different places, and yes, it's a bit more expensive than La Posada, but it also, to me, comes in pretty comparable to Starbucks or Mocha and other places. So I didn't find it too overly expensive, and seems like business is going quite well.
Okay. Jody, you want to talk about this then at all?
Oh, sure. Why
Sure,
not?
why not?
I'd be open to hear both sides of the story on this, but I've held a food service certification. There's a lot to it. There is a lot. I've not done the side of a restaurant. I do know that there's a lot behind it. I don't necessarily think that the board's really going to be on the positive side of running it for GVR.
Thank you. We're going to move to closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to give a closing statement. I'm going to ask that Lanny, you start with your closing statement. Correct.
First of all, thank you, Tony, for emceeing this afternoon. Really appreciate it. I want to thank my colleagues. I can tell you that I can tell that, like myself, a lot of time and effort was taken to prepare for this evening. And I'd also like to compliment my colleagues, up here from the perspective of, for you, the members, I think you've got a great choice this year. These are 6 quality people. 5 quality people and maybe 1 so-so. But you've got a really good group of people. And I think it's a good group of people to choose from to be added to a board that I've seen evolve over the last 3 years, that I know I would be very proud to be part of that board. I think they've matured tremendously over the time that I've been here. And so the question that you want to ask yourself is, why should I vote for Lanny? I think one of the things is I have a lot of board experience. In my previous career, I was a senior executive on a corporate board where I gained an awful lot of training in board governance and how boards function. I think one of the questions is, how do you deal with conflict as a board member? I think it's really important as a board member that we do have that much diversity on a board, where we have those robust discussions to come to conclusions that will benefit you, the membership. So I'd like you to consider that I have the leadership experience, knowledge, skills, financial background that is committed to working on your behalf at the board level. So thank you.
Thank you. April.
First, I'd like to thank the GVR board and specifically the Nomination and Election Committee for preparing us so well and giving us all this wonderful opportunity for this volunteer position. I'm very honored to be here. I've spent the last year preparing for this position. I've worked hard to familiarize myself with how this board works, the personalities, all the detail that goes into board decisions, and seeing how the board works together. And I really feel that I can be a tremendous value to this board. I've worked as part of many boards during my career, so I understand how to work on a board collaboratively. I understand that it's a team effort and that my voice is just one of several, and that we all have to come to a collective and collaborative decision. And I feel that I work well as a member of a team, and I'm very much looking forward to having input on this particular team. Part of the mission statement that really speaks to me for GVR is to create opportunities. And I think that is the one thing on the mission statement that I was going to call out as the most important piece on the mission statement. As a mom, I'm going to brag. My goal in life was to create opportunity for my son. And I'm proud to say that he ended up to be a 5-time All-American swimmer and went to UC Berkeley. My sincere goal for him was to create opportunity. And I can take that same thought and move that over to GVR and say, my goal for GVR is for me to help create opportunities for the members and make sure that they're getting all that they can from GVR. I want to be a part of that. Vote for me.
Thank you. Steve?
Big thank you to the N&E Committee, Tony and Nancy Moyo for their work in making this forum possible. I want to close by emphasizing that this campaign is all about the members, the board, candidates, our staff, the entire GVR organization. We have 6 qualified candidates who all bring a unique talent to the table. Each in their own way have helped me with my own campaign focusing on GVR. I wish there were 6 open positions. Beth, I think you're the heartfelt candidate who reminds me how GVR policies enhance the quality of our member lives. April, I think you're the voice candidate who reminds me that we are the voice for our members. Dale, I think you are the commitment candidate who reminds me of the commitment needed to serve our members. Lanny, I think you are the big picture candidate who reminds me to stay on task and think of GVR's vision for its members. Jody, I think you're the curious candidate who reminds me to understand our policies to best provide excellent facilities and services for our members. If elected, I'd like to help set a higher bar for the board's expectations for what GVR can accomplish in its new 5-year strategic plan. Number 1 priority will be developing new revenue streams to replace our declining home sales and increasing costs. I'm hoping this will be an opportunity to bring the membership together so that there's more harmony. I know this will not be easy, but could be monumental to enhancing the quality of our members' lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Dale?
Well, I ran out of time in my bio. I have one unique qualification that I'm sure none of the other 5 people have. For over 30 years, I officiated high school sports. So believe me, I have experience in conflict resolution. There ain't nothing more exciting than being inside a gymnasium with a couple thousand people wishing all kinds of ill gains to you. So that helps me in my negotiation skills and being able to operate under stress, because that is stressful. I guarantee you, anytime I watch a sporting event, I have a whole different view of a game. Again, when I started in GVR 15 years ago, I would read summaries of board meetings and what have you, and I would be like, oh my God, I just retired. I don't want to put up with this crap. This is... Now I go to board meetings, I go to committee meetings. There's intelligent, reasonable discussions. There's good decisions being made. It's no longer all of this. It's people having reasonable discussions and in most cases coming to a unanimous decision for the betterment of GVR. And I want to continue to be a part of that. I want to see that process continue, that we're all in agreement on ways to support GVR and make it even a better place than it already is. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody?
Thank you. I have to say, I feel like I'm a fish in a sea amongst sharks here. These guys are very highly qualified, and I'm honored to be here. Hang on, I got to keep my composure. All I can do is tell you what I can bring to the table. Sheer hard work, determination, and commitment. As I did throughout my career, I fought my way to the top. I stayed where I did. I will dig in and give you that determination and that commitment. And I ask one thing of you, and I will promise you 2 things. One, provide me the grace. I am very direct, very straightforward, and at times blunt. And it's nothing personal. It's just how I answer. I will ask me a question, I'll give you an answer. It's just, I am very passionate about what I do. I will try and soften that a little bit. I just won't be so direct and straightforward. What I will provide to you is, again, my hard work and determination. The other thing is, if you've seen my video, I promise I will tone down my makeup so it doesn't look like I just left a boxing match. If you haven't seen it, please go watch. It is pretty funny stuff. Vote for me, Jody Walker.
Thank you so much, Jody. Beth, conclude.
Yes, and my main mission as part of the board for the last 3 years has been the smooth functioning of the board. When I first got on the board, I can't say that things were all that smooth in terms of some conflicts that we had, and that's been my main focus is to try to make us all work together and see, respect each other's opinions. And I think the other two issues with the board have been really about how to spend money. And since our mission statement is to provide excellent facilities and services, create opportunities for recreation, social activities, and leisure education, I feel like the money that we get, the dues that you give us, should be returned in terms of facilities and services. And as long as we have a budget that works, that we then we should be spending our money on these things so that you have the facility, that you have a great club that you can be part of, that you can come to a dance contest, or, I mean, all these facilities, I think, make our lives so rich here. And I think that has been the conflict in the board. And I'm saying that I feel like I want to provide these services and facilities in a fiscally responsible way. But I still think that's what we're here for. And I hope, I appreciate your vote, but I also think that we have some wonderful candidates here. So you can't go wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. So in closing, I have been around for over a dozen of these. Maybe more than some of you, certainly less than some of you. We have another question? Oh, no, I'm going to get there. Trust me. What I can say is these 6 candidates represent one of the finest groups in aggregate that I have seen in 12 years. And I say that with no hesitation. I don't think you can go wrong. These are people who have stepped forward. They're going to commit time. They're going to commit effort. They're going to provide their expertise. So I want to thank them individually. I want to thank them as a group. I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you who have stayed. We have another forum next week. If you don't attend, please encourage other people to attend. This was put on or will be put on the GVR website, so you can view it at that point in time. There are, I believe, plenty of refreshments. Stick around, partake in them, talk to the candidates. Again, I thank you all.